welcome to the real deal of Hollywood. And today, yeah guys, I know you feel jealous. I know how you feel, because I would feel the same a couple of years ago, but now it's my honor and pleasure to have Madam Cynthia Rothrock with me on my show. Thank you so much for having time to meet me, and thank you so much for inviting me to a beautiful house. It's amazing, the atmosphere, the energy, it's as clean as I would say on the top of the mountain somewhere in China where you can practice Tai Chi.
Oh, well, that's very nice. I tried to keep it, very like Zen feeling and relaxing, but unfortunately I'm out of town a lot, so I don't get to spend much time doing household things, but
it's still amazing, and thank you so much for opening the door, opening the door of your own house to kind of a stranger. To me it means a lot, so thank you so much for that. Since we met last time, it's been almost a year, and while I was in China I was always thinking about your ideas, your projects, and I think that we have to not only be concentrated on US or Europe, but we have to introduce all our projects and stuff, and what we can do to China, because they're in need of ideas and people as yourself with experience and with such beautiful appearance.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think so too. I mean, China is becoming one of the biggest industries in entertainment. So, and like you said, it's a beautiful country. I trained over in China, so I spent a lot of time over there. So yeah, I would love to if we do something in China. It'd be amazing.
That's definitely. And still, it's been a year, and I feel emotional. Can we hang up? Thank you. Now I feel much better. I'm sure that for our viewers it's very interesting to know, how did you start to become a successful martial artist and then a successful action star? It's not easy. So how did you get involved in martial arts?
Well, I started when I was 13. A friend of mine, their parents were studying Tung Sido, and they owned a health club, and on Sundays the club was closed, and we would go down and we would just like do rolls and practice on the big gym floor while they did clean the equipment. And after they got done cleaning, they would put on their karate uniforms and start practicing their forms. And I looked at it and said, wow, that's something really unusual and different, learning how to use your hands and feet, how to defend yourself. I didn't really know anything about karate or martial arts at the time, but I was kind of an always out-of-the-box kid. I'd like to do anything that was different and physical. So my mom signed me up at the Scranton Karate School.
What was the biggest challenge for yourself, maybe for your family? Did they support you?
Well, at first the biggest challenge was I was a young girl and I was in a class with all guys, and I was intimidated. It was hard. I just remember I couldn't do that basic one turn. I couldn't shout. All these guys were really strong. The second class, they paired me up to spar, and I didn't know anything about sparring. I got hit in the head, and then they told me to break a board, and the board was already broken, so I almost broke my toe, and I was like, this stinks, I quit. I don't want to do this, and my mom said, I signed you up for 4 months. You're going to continue for 4 months. So reluctantly, I did go. And then one day the instructor was giving a speech about quitters, and I thought he was just looking at me and saying it to me, but we were all sitting down, and he said, if you don't practice, you're not good, which I did. If you have a bad attitude, which I did, you're not going to be successful. And a big thing about losers are not winners, and I said, you know what, I have to change my attitude. So I started saying, all right, I'm going to get this move down, this basic one, and I did, and then I started going, oh, okay, I like this, and I'm going to practice. And then I went for my first belt, orange, and at that time it was only like 3 months, that you would test for the next belts, because there's a lot of belts, and I jumped a belt. I went to orange first degree, and I entered a competition then. And at that time it was a little bit challenging because they didn't have belt divisions. They just had women from white belt to black belt. So if you were training 2 months or you were training 20 years, you're still in the same division, and I took second place. So that kind of gave me incentive to practice and really get good, because I thought if I could take second place and there's a black belt first and a black belt third, I could be really good in this sport. So I just trained from that day on really hard.
What was your first connection to Chinese martial arts, to Wushu, or how it's also called in America, Kung Fu?
Well, I studied, I got my black belt in Tung Sudo. And then a friend of mine switched over to a Kung Fu school. And I liked the movements. I liked the stances, I liked the movement, and I wanted to do both. So I signed up at both. Back in the day, it was a little different than martial arts training today, and my instructor said, you make a choice. You cannot study two styles at the same time. Either you're going to do this or you're going to do that. So I switched to the Kung Fu because I felt like I really enjoyed that way. It fit well with my body. And then as I was doing that, I would compete in New York City, and I was introduced to Eagle Claw Kung Fu, and I was like, wow, I got to study that. So I started training in New York. For about 4 years, I would go every Sunday and train with Master Shum Liang. And then I saw Wushu, and I was like, oh my God, I got to do Wushu. So I found Roger Tong, he was in Seattle. So I came out to California to a tournament, and I was going to stay here a month. And I went up to Seattle and trained with him, and I was like, I got to do Wushu. And then I went to China, I went to Chengdu. I studied there for 8 weeks with the national Wushu team. So that's kind of a little bit background of my Chinese martial arts training.
What was your experience in China the first time you arrived, and what was your feeling?
Well, I was excited because I knew we were going to train 6 days a week with the Wushu team, right? And it was different. We were living in, kid condition. We weren't like staying in the Hilton, we were like in dormitories kind of. And it didn't matter to me because the instructors were so great, and I was learning so much. And on our day off, we would practice in Sunday in the park, and all these people would come. Like hundreds of people just watching us practice, and they were just really interested. And here's this American girl, and I was training with an African American guy that was 6'2". So they were kind of like, and you got to remember at this time it wasn't that easy to get into China. We're talking about in the 80s, and I just had a wonderful experience. The people were so nice, and they were so appreciative that I valued that art so much, and I trained so hard.
What was your experience with the culture, with the food? Chengdu is Sichuan, it's famous for spicy.
Yes, I love spicy food. So I love Chinese food, and it's much different there than it is here. There's just something about it that's so good there. But some of the interesting things is before I went there, I really didn't know too much about health, right? I mean, a little bit. I would drink Coke, Diet Coke when I was practicing. And when I went there, it was so hot. There was no air conditioning, and you're like just, losing 2 pounds a day just in sweat. And they would drink hot tea. And I was like, hot tea, it's so hot. I just want a Coke, And my teacher said, no, your body needs to be warm. It's better. And I thought, oh, this is crazy, drinking hot when I'm so hot. But, it felt good. And I knew that they knew what they were talking about. And so I was like, okay. So that's one thing I learned right away is, when you're training, it's better to drink something warm than cold because your system's so hot, and then you take cold. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot, not just in martial arts, but a lot in culture as well.
What was your first step into Hollywood, into the film industry? How did you break through?
Well, I was competing. I was world champion, and I was on the cover of Karate Illustrated magazine. And my first experience into anything in film or entertainment was a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial that I did. And what happened is the company that was they were looking for 5 sports people that were the best in their field. So they went to magazine stand, and they were looking at all the magazine covers, thank God I was on the cover at that time, and they said, oh, this girl, she's #1 in martial arts, let's get her. So they contacted me to go do a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. I was living in Northern California. It was kind of funny because they were like, okay, well, we're going to give you $15,000 to do the commercial. We're going to give you a first class ticket, which I've never flew first class, but unfortunately from San Jose to LA, there is no first class. And they give me like $200 for food. And I remember going, I'm going to get a $10 pizza, and that leaves me with $190 left, and I was just so excited. But that was my first experience. I was blown away because it was inside a studio, and they had a whole Kentucky Fried Chicken set. The whole building was inside the studio, and I didn't know anything about acting or filming, and I was just like, wow, this is great. So that was my first thing I've done, and the commercial was quite successful, you know.
What about film? What was your first film?
My first film was Yes, Madam in Hong Kong. And because of my championship, let me take that back. I was on the West Coast demonstration team, and the editor of Inside Kung Fu magazine called Ernie Reyes, the team leader, and said, there's a Hong Kong company here, and they're looking for a new guy to be the next Bruce Lee. And Corey Yun was there, you know, the famous, love him, director Corey Yun. And they said, well, should we bring the girls? And they go, yeah, you can, but we're really looking for a guy. But so we all went down. We went to Heel Cho's studio in Beverly Hills, and I had to do some form fighting, self-defense, and weapons. And Corey Yun said, I'm going to go with the girl instead of a guy. So they signed me up and went to Hong Kong, my first film, Yes, Madam, with Michelle Yeoh.
So basically, your entrance in the industry was not, let's say, supported by any agent or manager. It was just being a champion in martial arts, being good at martial arts, and in the right place.
Yeah, I feel blessed because it wasn't something I was thinking I want to go be a martial art movie star. You know, I used to go to Chinatown with my teacher and watch the Jackie Chan movies all the time, and I would come back and I would practice things I saw him do on film. And I never really thought about it, you know. I think it was kind of a dream. Oh, I'd love to do something with Jackie Chan because he was my idol, you know, growing up. But when I did my first movie, I thought I was just do one movie. And I thought, oh, this is going to be an experience. I go to Hong Kong, I'm going to shoot a movie, and then someday I could tell my kids, look it, Mom was in a movie, I was on a poster. And after I did the first movie, Yes, Madam, it was such a success in Hong Kong that I got offer after offer after offer to continue to do movies. After my second movie, which was Millionaire's Express, or Shanghai Express, I said, I'm going to complete my goal of being undefeated in form and for 5 years, and then I'm going to just continue doing films. So then that was the transition where I went from being a professional competitor to going into films.
It's not easy to win, to become a champion, but I believe it's even more difficult to keep this title, to continue winning, to be on the top in martial arts as well as in film. What is your detail of success of keeping that high level, never going down?
Yeah, well, it is hard. It was very hard, and it started becoming stressful for me because, you know, when I say 5-time world champion, I'm talking about competing about 150 times. It's not like competing once and you get the title. So I was like stressed that I can't lose. I have to win because I kept winning, and everybody was waiting for me to lose or for someone new to come on. So I would go. That's why I went to Taiwan. I went to China. I went to Hong Kong. I took ballet. I took gymnastics. I did everything I could to keep on top and practice hard. When I would win and I take first place, other people would go home and go, oh yeah, I could relax, I took first place. And I go, no, I gotta practice harder because I gotta win again, you know. And that was my goal, is to be undefeated. And it was tough. It was tough because you know, I did such crazy complicated moves that I might be doing a balance move and be on like a tarp on the floor and lose my balance, and then I could lose, you know, because everybody was gunning for me. But you know what? It was determination. It was never saying someone's going to beat me. I'm going to just get better and better and better. And I kept thinking, it doesn't matter how good you are, you could always be better. So I trained for those 5 years like a maniac. And you know, if you want to be a champion and undefeated, that's what you have to do. I wouldn't travel, I wouldn't see sights, I would go to martial arts schools and train, and that was my life for those 5 years. And then as far as movie goes, you know, I didn't know anything about movies. So again, I started taking classes, acting classes. I started doing Second City, improv to help because no matter what you are, you can always get better and better, you know. So I just feel really blessed the way, you know, my career has been, you know. So I think it's like it's all my hard work and the man upstairs there helping.
What was your biggest challenge in the movie industry, in the entertainment industry?
I think the biggest challenge is overcoming the fact that a woman could be a lead in a martial art movie. When I first started, not in Hong Kong, but when I came to America and then to do films, I was always the partner, you know, and then the guy would come in to save the day. And then I did China O'Brien and I did Lady Dragon where I was the lead, and then it started changing, you know, okay, yes, Cynthia could be the lead. But then after a while, it went back to that again, like, oh no, okay, here's the lead, and you know, I think that was, and it's still for actresses today really hard, you know, for the female, like to, you know, like if you look at all the guys that were doing movies when I was, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Don Wilson, Jeff Speakman, you know, Michael Dudikoff, Olivier Grunet, they got in A-listed movies, and I never really gotten an A-listed movie, you know, and I think the fact at that time is that, well, women aren't really that big of a seller for action, which theoretically, if you do a good movie and you're fighting just as good, there's no reason, you know, why that fallacy is even in place today. But I would say that is probably the biggest obstacle then, and still now, is overcoming that stigma that a woman martial artist can do a good action movie, you know, which to me is better than taking an actress and having a lot of people double all the actions, you know, because you're really doing it for real.
What was your biggest project here in the States?
My biggest project in the States, oh, well, that's, let me see, they've kind of all been independent films. I'll say it was something I did. It was Irresistible Force, a movie I did for CBS. It was supposed to be a TV pilot. We had a $2 million budget. And that was probably my biggest project that I did. Unfortunately, at the time, Kevin Hooks was directing, and in America, this is in the early 90s, violence on TV was considered bad. You know, they thought martial arts action was not good. It was promoting violence. They, you know, and Kevin would get notes from CBS saying she can't kick to the head, and he's like, what are you talking about? I have this girl that can do these phenomenal kicks and I can't kick to the head, and there's no blood. So it kind of just got buried away. Came out on a DVD. It was called what was it called? Irresistible Force, right? And it was just bad timing, because you look at what's going on today, like that would be ridiculous. You know, this, you know, it was such a calm, nice little movie. But
how do you see the difference of the, let's say, action movie segment in the industry? It was extremely popular in 90s, as you mentioned, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, all these guys. How do you see this segment today?
Well, back then, there were a lot of independent movies going on, and video was really popular, you know, so they were paying, like, just for England, $500,000 for one of my films. The market changed, you know, all the independents kind of went away. The bigger studios came in and just did big pictures. You don't have the video stores anymore, you know, so it changed. It wasn't, that kind of action movie, you know, wasn't really working. And what happened then, it was so inexpensive to shoot, you were getting a lot of martial art movies that were really kind of bad, you know, so it overkilled. And now, luckily, the independents are coming back, you know, because you can have it streaming, you can make money, like, you know, on YouTube, you know, you don't have to have a big studio backing you to do it. So I think now, you know, we're seeing a lot more action pictures come on the scene.
Who was your favorite action star beside yourself?
Not my favorite action star, but I've always liked Jackie Chan, like I said before, Bruce Lee. I think Bruce Lee had that charisma on screen that nobody else could touch, and believe it or not, I do like the action of Jason Statham and Liam Neeson, who really aren't that martial artists. They're very physical, and then they learn martial arts. But the thing that I like is I like realism. I like things that look right. I don't like stupid fighting that doesn't work, or it's a miss or something like that. And I think it kind of kills me when I watch action movies, because I'm looking going, oh, that was a miss, oh, that didn't work, oh, that would never work. You know what I mean? I'm such a realist when I watch martial art movies, so they have to be really good. I'm probably like, if there's a big action movie out, I'm the last person to go see it, because if the action isn't good, I just can't sit there and watch it. Like, I've tried saying, okay, I should watch this movie because I can see what other people are doing, and I'm like, I can't get past it. I can't, you know, because it has to have good action for me, you know, to enjoy it.
Who do you see a future #1 action star?
Oh my gosh.
Except yourself.
I don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't think there's really a predominant one. You know what I mean? It wasn't like in the days where, like, yeah, Cynthia was the #1 woman and Van Damme was the most popular man. I mean, I don't know, because it seems nowadays everybody is doing some kind of action. You know, whether they're action stars or not. You know, whether do you consider them action or not. You know, I don't think there's anybody out there. I'd say probably, if I had to guess, I'd say probably Jackie Chan is still the most noted person for doing movies and action.
Yeah, but what about like let's say the younger generation? For example, Sylvester Stallone, he had a project called Expendables, and he got some new guys like the MMA or UFC fighters, you know. What about new?
Yeah, like Randy Couture. You know what? I don't know. I mean, like, would Randy Couture is very good, and he did the action in the Expendables. But when someone says who's the top action star, that name wouldn't come to mind. You know. So I don't know. I still think a top action star is someone that's doing films that really is doing the movies. You know. I mean, like, I love Jason Statham's movies, but would someone say, a martial artist, who's the top action star? Jason Statham? No, I don't think so. I don't really think that there is a top one right now. There's a lot of good ones out there, but I don't think anyone has dominated that market to say they're the number one action star. I mean, you could look, The Rock, he's doing a lot of action too. Mm-hmm. But if you ask a martial artist, they're not going to say, oh, Dwayne Johnson is the number one action star.
Mm-hmm. How about, what do you think of athletes coming to the movie industry right now? Do you see this kind of collaboration as a good thing? Will it improve film industry and action in general, or no? Because they're not actors; they're just athletes.
Well, you know what? I wasn't an actor when I came in. You know, a lot of us, mostly every martial artist, real martial artist that has done films, had to learn acting along the way. I think it's a good thing for anybody from any sports, physical, you know, martial artists. And it has nothing to do with that. It has how you come across on screen. I mean, you could be a gymnast and do all these flips and stuff, but then your sidekick techniques aren't right, or you're punching like this, you know. It all depends on the individual. You know, if you're going to do action, obviously if you're an athlete, you have a better chance at it, but you know, you should study martial arts to get the technique right.
What is your opinion on Ronda Rousey? She is a fighter, she's a MMA martial artist, and she is in the film already. What is your view? I
think she's had a great career. I mean, she's definitely one tough woman. Yes, like to get in and do the MMA. And because the MMA was so popular, you know, and you're on TV and you're making all this money with the UFC, then obviously the movie people are going to come and say, okay, yeah, we want to use you because, you know, you're not just a martial artist that has 10 million fans. You know, you're a worldwide figure, you know, and you have like 300 million fans or something like that. So, you know what? I think she's done quite well. You know, probably the most successful woman in martial arts to make money. You know, again, I think if you go to the martial arts world training, if you say is Ronda Rousey the best martial artist, I don't know if they would say that, but I think she is definitely career-wise been the most successful.
How would you defeat her if you were to spar her?
Well, first of all, you know, I guess it would kind of be like Holly Holm. You know, if she got me in a takedown or something like that, I would be gone. So Holly Holm got her with the kicks first. So since I'm a kicker and a hand person, I would definitely try to utilize that before she could get me down on the ground. And that's how she kind of lost that fight, is that, you know, Holly Holmes was a martial artist and she didn't get, you know, she got one in, stunned her, you know, and then that was it, you know. So, you know, it's like what you're good in, you know, in your field, because technically, you know, when you're doing you know, MMA, you're not really, you know, your thing is get the person down on the ground and you know, choke them out. It's not kick them in the head and knock them out.
What projects, what activities are you concentrated on right now?
There's a couple films. There's one movie that we're probably going to shoot in October that I'm really, really excited about. It's a fantasy film, and it's something like I've never done before. I play the leader of a tribe, you know, so it goes back in like past Caveman Day, but around that time. Big fantasy feature, so I'm really excited about that. We have the Martial Art Kid 2. that is coming up that we will be shooting that. And also, that I mentioned to you before, I'm working on my documentary, doing a documentary on my life, and pretty soon we're going to probably start a crowd fundraiser on Indiegogo or Kickstarter to raise funds to do that. I'm really excited about that one. Myself and my producers, Paul and Sonia, have put together what we want to do, and it's quirky, it's fun, it's motivational, it's spiritual. It's not a typical documentary, so I don't want people coming in and saying, oh yeah, Cynthia, you're so great, da 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 da. I want them to say, what's funny, what happened with you that was funny, you know, so make it entertaining, motivational, that, you know, throughout my career, everything I had to do, I had to work for, I had to work really hard for, nothing was ever handed to me. Spiritual, how my path and my journey with God has taken place over the years, and just darn funny, you know, all the funny things that have happened, you know, in my life. So I think it will be good for martial artists and people that aren't in the martial arts. So that's those three things are probably going to happen this year.
If a friend of yours would come to you and ask an advice, they would say, Cynthia, I have a kid. My kid is, let's say, 5-6 years old, and I want my kid to do martial arts. Which type of martial art would you recommend the kid?
Well, you know what?
At the beginning?
Yeah, I think 5 and 6 is a great age to start kids, and I think all children should should get in a martial art program. So many styles are good. You know, it's usually the teachers that you have to watch. So what I would recommend is, say, go to a couple schools. Let the little kid either, you know, try a class. Some people have introductory classes, or get a feel, you know, even if they don't know, get a feel for the discipline. You know, are the kids happy? Are they paying attention? Are they learning? You know, or are they running all over the place? You know, and get a feel what feels right. You know, because it's kind of hard, because if a parent is coming in with their kids, anybody could do anything. Someone could be punching like that, really strong, but break the wrist, you know? So you've got to make sure what's being taught is real, and that's kind of hard if you don't know anything about it. So you just got to go and watch. I would say, look at the discipline of the class, you know, do the kids look good? Are they paying attention, you know? And then see, because some little kids might be easier doing like Tung Sido, or some little kids would have more fun doing Kung Fu. You know, they're completely different styles. So basically just visit a couple and try it out and see which one works.
If a parent says, my kid wants to do martial arts, but what would martial art give to his future? If he's going to be a coach, it's not a well-paid job, or he might have no students. If to consider Hollywood, it's very difficult to get it. So how would you persuade the parent to still support the kid and let the kid practice martial arts?
Well, first of all, I would never say do martial arts to have a film career. Do martial arts as a career, because it's hard. It's not easy to be successful in that. What I would say is you do martial arts because today is such a dangerous world. Your child needs to know how to protect himself. We have bullying going on all over the place, and what parent could not feel more confident in knowing that their child is very aware of situations that could be dangerous?
Last thing which I wanted to ask you for myself and our viewers. 3 most important tips of success from you, from Cynthia Rothrock, to our viewers. Doesn't matter if they are martial artists or actors or both.
Okay, 3 tips. I'd say number 1, no matter what you do your best. Don't just put 100% effort in, 110%. So doing your best always. Number 2, don't accept failure, because at times we all fail, right? But just think, okay, I'm going to succeed. Don't let it get you down. And number 3, I would say always have a positive attitude. I think when you do something and you say, oh, I'm not going to get this, or I'm never going to be able to do this, you know, you're not going to. But like if you say, like, for example, push-ups. That was the thing I didn't like. You know, my teacher would go, okay, we got to do 50 push-ups. I hate doing push-ups, you know. And I couldn't get to them, but then you go, okay, look at how good these push-ups are for my arms, that my body's going to be really strong, my punches are going to be strong. I love them. Okay, 49, 50, got it. Changing your attitude to positive. So that would be my 3 tips on being successful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us today. And this was The Real Deal of Hollywood with the real deal of Hollywood, the best action star and the most beautiful action star of all times, I would say.
Oh,
Madam Cynthia Rothrock.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.